I've actually been itching to do a video on this, and I'm going to read a bunch of stuff, a little bit of stuff. I'm not going to make this too long, but what this video is basically on a technique used in painting called perspective. And perspective, now don't fool yourself, people. The idea of perspective is not something that necessarily originated in the Renaissance. If you have Euclidean space, if you're familiar with Euclid, and if you're familiar with Aristotle and Plato, there are people that actually indicated the idea that two parallel lines will verge for the viewer in a distance. And, you know, it's sort of like the idea of perspective. And the Renaissance embellished this, and I will call this that nuclearism. And the age of fission is similar to the idea of perspective in the Renaissance. Some fucking moron artist trying to make some kind of statement about the reality of what it is that we're facing. Yeah, I'm telling you, I've been itching to do this, and I'm saying that the concept, and it's conceptual because perspective is basically a formulation by some very clever people. You have people in the Renaissance. You have Brunelleschi, whatever you want to say, doing his domed sort of library thing there. And then you have Donatello, you have D'Alberti talking about, you have to research this, perspective. Research perspective. Now, this is a fabrication in order to facilitate a world view that is given to you, a world view that has been formulated 500 years ago. No, not really. It was way beyond that. It was 400 AD. It was Euclid. It was before that. It was like Aristotle. They had an understanding of this. And even Giotto in his Jesus in front of Caiaphas. Just check out Giotto's painting of Jesus in front of Caiaphas. And you will see that Giotto used the idea of perspective. It was very real. And then you have, of course, Van Eyck, the Netherlands guy, who painted the Anophelino, whatever that portrait, the guy and the girl and the mirror and the perspective. So this was in 1430 something. You have a concept of the world, what it is that we perceive. And we have been hijacked. The idea of perspective was a formulation by people that actually, and I'm not averse to perspective. It's a fabulous sort of technique or formula to use in a painting, but it has no relevance or meaning to the universe, what it is, who we are, what it is we're facing. Look at Giotto, look at Masaccio, these people that came before perspective. They threw it out because they understood that the essence of our nature, our souls, our being, our absolute dedication to life and survival is not predicated on what I will call now. This is the hijacking. I will say that progress, the idea of progress has been hijacked by what is called science and mathematics, and the idea that there are people that are really smart that can manipulate reality in the way that they're manipulating atoms. They're splitting the atom, and it's called fission. What I have coined the age of fission. And this is very similar to what happened in the Renaissance, that people took this perception of reality, called it perspective, and started to run away with this. And what do we have? We have progress, the concept of progress. And we end up in the age of fission. And I take it back to the Renaissance, where things went fucky muck in the Renaissance. And people absorbed this and believed, because it's very seductive. It is absolutely brilliant. I spent a year working with, and when I was in, well, maybe not a year, but I spent a long time working with teachers that tried to show me foreshortening and perspective and all that. And I had a hell of a time with that. I personally had a hell of a time with it because I gravitated more naturally toward that feeling of Giotto or Ciambui. This was the nature of my work, and I still think, I mean, I'm doing it in front of my, I'm using the emperor's flag as a kind of perspective to nuclearism, but this is something that we are facing that is built over a long period of time, which is why I really feel connected to the idea of art and artists, and they're not always on the level. If you look at people like Brunelleschi or Donatello, who basically promoted the idea in their work, I'm saying that we need to make choices. And there is no rule to say you can't do this. Of course you can do this. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. Except when the evolution of this thought process, the worldview we might have, ends up in the age of fission. Something isn't right. Something is wrong. We lost something along the way. We are not going to survive the age of fission. We got to get rid of it. We have to find our roots somewhere else. And don't kid yourself. This idea of perspective was understood long before everybody talks about the Renaissance and the whole idea of history and the idea of history as being sort of like 6,000 years is a bunch of hooey anyway. You need to read Fomenko, the, what does he call it, history, science, or fiction. It's actually built into us to be undermined by a very small group of people that I have called the Akhenatans, the oligarchs, the people that try to attract all the wealth, all the power onto themselves. And we have a sliver of hope because there are artists out there or visionaries who try to say, don't do that. Don't do that. And there were people all along the way, along art history, that said, don't do that. Don't go into this worldview of perspective. And if you look at, let's say, for example, I'll just give a quick example. If you look at Giotto, an artist that understood perspective, check out Jesus in front of Caiaphas. He understood perspective, but he didn't absorb it. He said there is a more fundamental, more profound understanding than just going with this view of the universe as being, what is that? Orthogonal lines. What is the relationship between lines meeting on a 90-degree angle and parallel lines? He understood that the true measure of the art was contained in the emotion, in the heart, in transmitting something that allows us to survive, which has nothing to do with what is considered to be, in our age, science. Science. I would gladly get into wood shoes and mud huts if I could get rid of this damn nuclear reality. We are in the fight for our lives. So what I want to do is I'm going to just read. I've wanted to do this whole thing about the Renaissance and the brilliance of the oh, they're so brilliant. Well, we went the wrong direction as far as I'm concerned. And what did we end up with? We ended up with the nuclear monster. So I get these emails from a fabulous guy called Skidoo23. He's down the road from me. I've never met him. But he posted this article by Miriam German, who writes, and I love this article. I mean, there are people of conscience that are doing wonderful things and writing beautiful things, and they understand. And I'm going to read this, and it's why Fukushima ended all debate about nuclear power. And this is so, obviously I gravitate toward this because it makes sense. Fukushima ended all debate about nuclear power. How much more clear can you get? Fukushima, 3 full core meltdowns. It is the perspective, the science of our age, the brilliant science of our age. I mean, it's failed us. It has failed us. It doesn't work. So she says, it's March 3rd, 2015, just 8 days away from the 4th anniversary of the triple meltdown and explosion at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant in Japan. As I write this, I'm seated on a plane heading back to the East Coast to the family, far from my home in Cascadia, otherwise known as the Pacific Northwest. So she's somewhere, Seattle or wherever that is. Next to me is my current reading, A Field Guide to Radiation by Wayne Biddle. I have not come across this. Why this book? Because I've already read the books about the creation of nuclear power, nuclear bombs, the making of the nuclear power plant in the Northwest that caused the largest bond default in the history of the United States, books about the effects of radiation on citizens written by individuals who grew up near nuclear plants, and books by both scientists and doctors on the effects of radiation from Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, and Fukushima Daiichi. So why read one more? Because I want to know. Because I need to know more. Because I have to know more about what happened to me, my family, friends, animals, plants along the West Coast as the effects of Fukushima Daiichi fallout hit us just days after 3/11 occurred and continue to do so intermittently. Intermittently, I think continuously is a better way to say it. At any time, on any given day, as things continue to steam up in Japan. Things continue to steam up in Japan. I don't know about that. People are in total denial. Anyway, I have to know more because I've lived downstream from Hanford Nuclear Plant. So she's close to Hanford, the largest nuclear dump in the northern hemisphere. And because I've been a downstreamer of this plant, nuclear power plant called the Columbia Generating Station, which if an earthquake occurs or a dam breaks or the grid goes down for any reason at all, or a worker makes a mistake, I would be killed along with almost all of North America, killed by radiation. Now, this is a person writing. I have not come across her. I just loved the way she was writing. The event on 3/11 at Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant was not an accident. It was caused by an idea. Perspective, maybe? Is it the idea that we've taken the wrong turn? This is my little comment. Have we taken the wrong turn? The idea that science rules and we allow these people to hijack our hearts into their worldview? Maybe we've done a mistake. It was an idea, and that idea was fueled by hubris, that we could create a weapon so powerful through the creation of nuclear fission that we could destroy our greatest enemy. The missing link was simple. It was a mirror hidden behind the cloak of hubris. Now, a mirror. Where did I hear this mirror? Didn't I say Van Eyck in his pivotal painting, this portrait of Van Eyck with the mirror in the back showing the reality is a mirror. This is an interesting connection for me. People have insight and understanding. The missing link was simple. It was a mirror hidden behind the cloak of hubris, greed, in the minds of the greatest psychopaths in scientific and engineering history. The enemy was used all along. Was used all along? I don't get that. Anyway, the psychopaths of science. There are no two sides to this story. There can be no real debate under any circumstance that nuclear power is a beneficent source of energy. The side effects of nuclear explosions and meltdowns are death. The side effects of leaking radiation from decrepit nuclear plants are deadly. There is no longer any question of what would occur after a nuclear accident. We saw what happened when we dropped a bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and then continued bomb testing until 1980. I think it was longer, until 1992, I think. We witnessed the death and annihilation of people, animals, plants, life after Chernobyl, TMI, and of course Fukushima Daiichi, 3 Mile Island. It was well documented now though due to a corporate media blackout of the past 8 years on nuclear issues, you might not have heard the news. See Noblokov, I think she means Yakovlev, as an example. Yakovlev, the guy that did the Chernobyl research. Our DNA cannot withstand cell mutations from ionizing radioactivity. This is a fact founded through the studies of Timothy Mousseau. Healthy DNA is the key to creating healthy future generations. Since the 1940s, ionizing radiation, man-made ionizing radiation, not bananas, not potatoes, not some background radiation, has been altering our DNA. And once a mutation occurs, and people, once a mutation occurs, it can't be turned back. This is the frightening part. It can't be turned back. Once it's put in place, it can't be turned back. Now we're being subjected to something that can never be turned back. We cannot accept the preponderance of genetic alterations, nor can we live with or accept nuclear weapons and nuclear power. None of these produce life. It is ironic that so many Republican pro-life politicians are pro-nuclear as well. Well, there's a lot of irony. The irony does not escape those of us in the anti-nuclear movement, or does it? Or now she says, or does it? Because I've been saying that the soft peddlers are all out there on all levels. The Gundersons, the Busbys, soft peddlers. And no matter what anybody says, I'm not on board, because Busby was one of the people that said it'll dilute in the ocean. How insane is that? A nuclear physicist, someone who understands nuclear, says it dilutes like a bunch of Kool-Aid in a, you know, you pour the powder, the Kool-Aid into the water, it dilutes. It's not like that. It's in pockets. It's going to infect us. Activists, environmentalists use terms like critical mass as a method of creating change without really understanding that critical mass is a term meaning the minimum quantity of uranium-235, uranium-233, and plutonium-239 to sustain a fission reaction. We must remove terms like critical mass from the lexicon of anti-nuclear activism, a term which only suits the atom bomb, the promoters of the atom bomb, as our guidepost to effective activism. And that won't get us very far. The whole anti-nuclear movement, the passive anti-nuclear movement, isn't going to get us very far. Continuing. It is time to acknowledge the depth of the harm we have wrought on the earth. And then it is time to grieve. After grief comes anger. At this point, how about we finally say, fuck you to environmental leaders who refuse to include nukes in their arguments, and worse yet, point to nukes as the answer. The Pandora's promise, right? This is the Pandora's promise thing. We do need to come together with an anti-fracker, anti-coal, anti-tar sands folks and say no to nukes. Nukes are the missing piece of the environmental equation, and shutting down a nuke plant is possible. We've decommissioned there's a small group of people that were instrumental in decommissioning nuke plants in the US so far, with 99 more to go. Many of us believe, don't take credit for something you don't do. I don't know what she's done. Many of us believe that Diablo Canyon is close to being shut down. Bloody hope so. The Diablo Canyon, oh my, yeah. CGS is close. Pilgrim is close. There are many more, but all 99 online nuclear plants need to be shut down, and now. There is no time left. Well, she gets it. She gets it. On 3/11, our group, No Nukes NW Northwest, is holding an open memorial for the Pacific Ocean. Yes, the Pacific Ocean. She absolutely gets it. It is dying, and her animals and plant life are dying with her. And we caused this. How terribly sad. When I was a teenager, I knew things would get bad after reading Diet for a Small Planet. I read How the Other Half of the World Dies. Yeah, we had indications of all of this, but we never acted. I never acted on it. I just woke up at 3/11/11. Perhaps I didn't know somewhere deep inside that the insanity could and would grow like a cancer when mixed with greed, lies, narcissism, masochism, and the almighty dollar. Absolutely. I sit here in amazement and utter sadness when I think that we're coming together in a week to grieve over the impending deaths of so many ocean animals. Our new reality is very hard to handle. It hurts the heart. You're bloody right, it hurts the heart. As to the question of what can we do for the Pacific Ocean, our most beautiful creatures, we can protest loudly inside the UN that we are in the midst of the most international earth crisis ever faced in the history of the earth, from the triple meltdown at Fukushima Daiichi. With no Pacific, we have no life. That's a fact. Without the Pacific, we have no life. The plankton that is produced in the Pacific Ocean gives oxygen to all of life on the planet. Never mind fish life. It's to all of us. We need our oceans to remain alive in order for us to live. Demand of the UN to create an international science and engineering team along with the leaders from the anti-nuclear community to go to Japan and take over responsibility of TEPCO and the Japanese government. Do it now. The whales and dolphins, turtles, big fish, yellow fish, green fish, red fish, blue fish, all need us to move. Okay, so here's somebody that gets it. So I'm just reading this because it's like this is Miriam German. She's the director of radcast.org. She founded No Nukes Northwest in 2012. Okay, she came along a little late, but I don't give a shit. So she came along a little late, and she's giving her dissertation. I thought I'd read this because it's like, you know, I'm talking about this shit. I'm going on about this stuff, and I know there are a lot of other people. Now, Blanche is walking along the coastline. Blanche, and I've said this to you people, you can read till you're blue in the face. You can understand this until you're blue in the face, but we need to internalize this. We need to internalize this the way I feel I'm internalizing it in my work. And I have to try and put this work out. I'm not somebody that's writing books and dissertations or whatever. I will go on the street if I have to. I will make the work that I need to do, and we all need to become active on some level. Like I said in one of my last posts, I said, hang out a sign. Hang out a sign from your window and say, Fukushima blew up, 3 full core meltdowns, our DNA is being altered. I don't care what you put on your sign. Put it on your window outside of your house instead of saying, oh, I comment on different people's YouTubes that are anti-nuclear. It's not gonna work. We need to just not write about it and think about it. We need to act. We need to act. We need to internalize this. The way Blanche is, as he says, he lives with it. And he's an ornery bastard most of the time, but I don't give a shit because he's an example of what it means to internalize the struggle.